welcome to APPMC 2019, and we have Mr. Bart with us from TD Securities. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start, sir. Gold is an investment portfolio of the institutions. Okay, so what are the broad trends that you observe in US and Canada, and any observation based on the portfolio of individuals regarding the role of gold?
Well, right now there is very little exposure of gold in most portfolios. Our view is that people look at gold in the context not only of fixed income, but also equities. So we're looking at total return in a nicely diversified portfolio, and gold has not been part of it, mainly because equities have done very well. We've not seen significant risks out there. Volatility has been fairly low. So there hasn't been very good reasons to increase holdings, and our analysis shows that indeed there has been very little exposure, a lot less than normally in gold. We think this is going to change, and we think this is going to change aggressively.
Okay.
I should add that last CFTC data has shown very aggressive purchases of gold, and that included covering of short positions and increasing new longs. We can discuss certainly of what some of the drivers were, like central bank policy, and we've had new volatility in equity.
Talking about Canada, what is the appetite of gold, and in what form? And what form do the institutions hold gold?
Well, it depends what kind of institutions we're talking about. Central banks will typically hold physical material. Pension funds don't have a lot of exposure, but I think nobody really wants to roll these contracts all the time. So in my opinion, for institutions holding it for long periods of time, it's probably not a bad idea to have a physical interest.
So it's more of a physical form, or it's more of a paper form of gold?
I think we have both, and it depends what your objectives are. Is it a short-term speculative type of a trend, in which case, futures may be just fine. If you want to have a general preserver of wealth, maybe physical is better. But I think it will be very difficult to say generally what people want to do. It'll depend on the mandate of an individual fund or pension fund.
If we talk about the paper form of gold, what is it into that ETF, or it's in the form of gold bond?
Well, certainly something like ETF, they are quite often backed by physical gold. So yes, you are buying representative paper, but in fact, it's backed by physical gold. And we're seeing that, for example, in some brokerage firms within Canada, like TD Securities, for example, and then TD Wealth. We can certainly have the ability to have paper certificates, but the bank will hold gold on behalf of the client. So there are many forms of doing it. So when you say paper, everything tends to be paper. I don't see very many people bringing bullion home and sticking it under their pillow. If it's a significant amount, you will store it at some sort of a vault, and you will get a paper claim giving you the right to that gold, but it's on physical, not necessarily a futures.
Okay, so what is the percent of holding? Typically in Canada and US-based pension funds, what is the percent of holding?
I'm not quite sure what. For the most part, not very much. There isn't a lot of exposure, but some are starting to talk about it and maybe using it as a nice hedge. But I think that would probably be a long-term physical type of a holding.
So how is your experience going in APPMC?
Well, it's we really like the conference. TD Securities, TD Bank broadly is looking at this part of the world more aggressively, and it's a business we want to grow more into Asia. and it's right now centered in Singapore, but as time goes on, we want to get a lot more active in this region. So this is why we're here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
It was my pleasure.